Hello, Vet Talks. I want to talk a little bit about, a lot of people, when they say, like, before you go into a deployment, you may have been a certain way, and when you come out of the deployment, you're changed, and it's a common thing that happens. And not all deployments are the same. I've been on 6 deployments, but the last three were piece of cake. weren't wasn't really no major conflicts. It wasn't really no major, well, what I consider no major conflicts or things like that. Because the first three were that was a lot of stuff that was going on. As a matter of fact, my very first one, of course, that was when, like I said, it was in 2003, and that's we were basically the beginning of the war. Um, and a lot of the way I would describe it, it was the wild, wild west. There wasn't. I do talk a little bit about some of the things we did. There's no way that they would allow that stuff to happen nowadays. It just wouldn't happen. There were times where we're just out there, alone and unafraid. That's a cool term on a T-shirt, but that's the way we were. We were very aggressive. We were very much lucky in some cases, but during that deployment, it came to a point where a lot of our missions, a lot of our stuff that we were doing, it there were so many close calls, and then you would hear stories about people, how people were passing away, and all this different stuff, and I remember it got to a point. I came to a realization. I came to a realization I wasn't going to make it out. You know, wasn't going to make it home. There was just so much going on, and it was just so much happening, and I had to settle with that idea. I had to come to grips with it, and in doing so, it changed me. It changes your frame of thought. It changes everything. It changes a lot of because you're no longer that idea of self preservation. That idea that hey, when I get back, there was no getting back. This was it, and it came to the point of like, well, if I'm gonna go out fighting. That's basically what was my attitude. You know, I remember a lot of my prayer. When before we'd go on mission, I would always pray a prayer, and I would always ask God for strength. In case I needed to pull my buddies out. I would ask for courage, courage like a lion, because a lion didn't fear anybody. You know, and those were the things that I relied on, because those are things that are hard. They're very hard when you're in a situation where everything just looks bleak. You need that strength to push through, and that courage to continue to do what you're doing. And so it does change you. It does change your 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 frame of thought. And that's why when we did get back, it was very hard to turn it off. I don't think there was no on and off button. They don't teach you that. They'll teach you how to become. You know, the army trains you to be a killer. They train you to be a warrior. They train you to do all these things. They teach you how to go past that mental block of fear. At least that's what I learned in the 82nd Airborne. That's why I give so much credit to a lot of my uh, ability to push past certain things was because it was just drilled into you. In my early stage of development in the military, you didn't have a word. If you looked at somebody wrong, do push-ups. If you're late, do push-ups. If they just wanted to beat you down, do push-ups. They drill it into you that they take you from what you were as a civilian, and they whittle you down to nothing. And then they build you back up. But the way they build you back up, they're building, you got to put on, because we in the 82nd Airborne, we used to put paint on her face, camouflage, and it had to be a certain way. It was a certain pattern you had to put it on, and when you put it on, you change, you transform, because when you had that warrior mask on, it changed you. And when you would look at your buddies, they had a different look, and you had a different look, and you had a different attitude. It just changed the way you were. It just was just the way it was. Over time, and you got to remember these deployments, they build up on each other, because you go to deployment and you come back, and all you're doing is getting ready for the next deployment. So there's a little space in there. You're never allowed to adjust back to who you were. You're not allowed to, a lot of the, between coming back from deployment, I drank a lot. And what does that do? What does drinking do? Drinking just builds up your anger, just builds up who you were. And then you couple that with all your flashbacks and all your nightmares and your anger over, what you. Give me a second. It's not the same. And even after all these years, because I've gone through, I've been through 4 rehabs trying to, deal with my alcoholism. And I've sought help at times, but it doesn't change. And they put you on these meds and, it doesn't. So what do you do? Do you deny what they built? They turned you into something. And after all these years, when you're done with all your deployments and you're done with everything, and I retired, and I talked about how there was this. When I retired, it was like a release of all the stressors, and you think it's gone, you think it's over, but it's not, because you got to come to grips with something. Who you were, what they turned you into, doesn't go away. It's embedded in you. It's in your DNA. It's in your everything. And there's no switch. Like I said, there's no switch to turn it off. So what do you do? How do you deal with it? It was a term that I said one of my other videos about radical acceptance. And you have to accept certain things. And for me, I got to accept that this guy, that's me, he's never going to go away. He's there. And there are times where he wants to be large and in charge. He wants to take over. He wants to be, because like I said, there's certain points you get back to that aggression. There's certain things that'll put you back in that mode. So how do you do it? Do you just avoid everything? I tried that. After I retired, I became a hermit. Stayed in my room. Didn't want to come out. I would stay up all night, sleep all day, repeat. You try to look for, happy things in life. It's kind of hard to do when you're living in this environment that we're in. You got all these people that are, all these situations going on right now in the United States and stuff like that. And you tell yourself, you know what? There's a fear. There's a fear, just leave me alone. There's a fear of just, don't bring him out. Leave him alone. I want peace. You know, I've done all the bad stuff. I don't want to live that no more. You know, I've been, like I said, my first three were the bad ones. Last three were a piece of cake. So I know you can try and, you can, you can move out of that phase. You know, the last three deployments, even though I was overseas, and yeah, you deal with a lot of separations and stuff, but they weren't bad. I mean, I remember you're fighting boredom majority of the time. So what do? You play video games, watch movies. I think, you know, that's when we were binge watching all these movies, and so you tell yourself, okay, well, that's the ticket. That's the ticket. Keep yourself busy doing fun things. You know, don't let your mind wander, because they say idle hands is the devil's workshop, and I believe that. I know there's a huge issue with a lot of in the military with a lot of suicide, and you always tell yourself, what what gets a person to that point? I don't know. I don't have the answers. And I'm pretty sure a lot of it has to do with what they've been through. And there's no off switch. There's no way to turn it off. So how do you deal with this? We hide it. You dig it down deep. You put on your poker face. And that way nobody knows what you're going through. That's why part of what I wanted to do was, you know, reach out to veterans. Do you need someone to talk to? Call me. Call me. Email me. I'll talk to you. I got friends that if I needed to talk to somebody, and I tell them, I say, I appreciate you guys, because there's no on and off switch. Sometimes it comes out of the blue. Just be careful out there. For all my veterans, just be careful. And with that being said, I'll talk to y'all later.